a second. There's always a domino effect, a trickle-down effect when it comes to the coaching world. But we'll see recruiting and a program that we have not spoken much about here on Group Chat Football Live, Michigan State. It was a very important weekend for them in terms of the 2026 class. Two big pickups. You got a quarterback in Kayd Coffman, who 247 ranks him as the number 15 player in Michigan and number 50 QB in the country. On3 has him as a 4-star. And then tight end Eddie Whiting, 6'6", 230, number 2 player in the state of South Dakota, 4-star on 247 composite. Florida, Illinois, UCLA recently offered. But let's start here at the quarterback spot, a guy in Kayd Coffman, D, from Grand Rapids, Michigan, that you and I think are both big fans of watching this tape.
Yeah, first thing that stands out is the athleticism. This is a twitchy athlete, very sudden and fluid in his movements. Could run a little bit, looks like a pocket passer projection, but somebody who's an athletic pocket passer. And really, that's, again, the first thing that stands out. Frame looks good, 6'2", 185, no size issue. Seems like he has strong hands to grip the football. But, yeah, the twitch and the athleticism. He's somebody who he's from the state of Michigan. You mentioned, look at that throw right there, the athleticism across his body. There are some big schools after him. You see Iowa State was hot in his trail, starting to pick up some interest from other schools. Ole Miss was sniffing around, Syracuse, Duke, Cincinnati, Iowa, but still somewhat an underrated player. Grew up about 30 minutes from where Kirk Cousins played high school football there. So, that worked out for Michigan State. Obviously, Kirk Cousins still playing football. There are good players in this area that might not be as highly rated as like a CJ Carr, right, for example, who ended up signing with Notre Dame. So seems like a good find. It's hard to evaluate quarterbacks too much without game film, but the athleticism and the fluidity and the natural throwing motion, you see it all there, and you see him. They're definitely putting him on the move and taking advantage of his ability to get outside the pocket.
Yeah, and I like, there's a few times here in the face of pressure, he steps up and makes some nice throws, kind of on the move, like you said, and listed as 6'2", 185, so a bit, on the skinnier side, but doesn't look like adding weight should be much of an issue for him.
No, the frame looks good. Again, you see him running. I don't think this is what he's going to major in, but he can do it. But the design quarterback movement, right, where it's a play, bootleg, they're designing it for him to run and throw. I think that's really where he might do some serious damage. There you see it again. Design quarterback movement, whip-like throw. Great toss right there. He's somebody who's been picking up steam in the offseason, 7-on-7s, throwing sessions. He actually trains with a former Michigan State Spartan, Ryan Van Dyke. He says not necessarily like a lifelong Michigan State fan, but he obviously saw the opportunity there. And I think he's someone who can develop. You have Aiden Childs. You don't need to force him on the field, especially if, Aiden Childs comes back and develops multiple years. This guy can wait in the wings, and look at that raw ability. I mean, that play right you see right there, that's not something you coach. That's the extra part that
look at him step up, man, in the face of pressure, and just feels it and looks pretty composed when doing so.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, we watch a lot of these films, so nothing really kind of catches our attention, or not everything catches our attention. Where sometimes these films sort of blend together and you see similar guys, but the movement skills here to me stand out. The passing stats, when you look at max preps, aren't spectacular, under 60% completion percentage, not a prolific passer. But again, Kirk Cousins was not a prolific passer in high school. This is not Texas where everybody's running a spread and you have a million receivers running around. So the stats can be deceiving. When you look at the tools, you see a lot of talent.
And then you see what he said. He said, I think we can do special things, and that made me excited. It made me want to get on board. So nice start for them, man. Again, 4-star on 3, and then a 247 3-star. But a guy who, like we said, looks like the arrow's really pointing up with this guy. And then a tight end pickup here. Ed Whiting from South Dakota, and this is a guy who 6'6", 230, plays some basketball, but just a big body at the tight end spot, adding to the class early here.
Yeah, the Dakotas, that whole area seems to produce some just big dudes. You saw yesterday watching the Super Bowl, Dallas Goedert, tight end from Britain, South Dakota, right? So South Dakota tight ends can make it to the league. This one intrigued me. You see him playing defensive end here. It wasn't a lot of defensive clips, but we've seen some of these big dudes from the Midwest and the West move from tight end to defensive end. J.J. Watt, probably the most famous, but just one example. But there's a lot of things you can do when you have this frame. So that's really, to me, where everything starts. 6'6", 6'10" wingspan, 230. You could see the ability to put on weight. I mean, this guy's going to be a monstrous player. Played basketball, and you see throw him a fade. He has some receiving ability. It's not like they're just using him as a blocker. He is experienced as a receiver from what you can see here. They're featuring him. But the blocking ability presents tremendous upside because of the frame. You see spurts of it here in his highlights, knocking people over, playing with some physicality. Coach's son, which is another good thing if you're banking on development. He's going to know what he needs to do, to work hard. You see receiving skills. I wouldn't say he's like right now a day one natural, stud receiver with the total fluidity and high point ability of like an A1 receiving tight end. But look at that. I mean, that's a nice catch right there. He has experience doing it. And with his size and movement ability, he's just a ball of clay that can do a lot of different things.
And you see him here on the goal line as a blocker. I think that's where a lot of his value comes early on.
Yeah, and look, who knows how big he's going to get, right? How many times have we seen these guys from South Dakota, North Dakota develop even into tackles? I'm not saying he's going to be that. I mean, you don't see, it's hard to tell without seeing the player in person. It's not like he has like a giant lower body that you can say, hey, he's going to be huge. But these guys grow. And that's one thing with this region of player. Look at the nice speed there. One thing with this region and players from this region is they just develop a lot. They work hard. They got natural size. And there's a lot of meat on the bone because, this is not Texas. This is not Florida. This is not California. These guys are not in, $1 million facilities all the time with coaches making six figures trying to develop them into college players. So a lot of room for development. And there's a reason why a lot of big schools are after him. 4-star from Dakota. From the Dakotas, you got to be special. And a lot of schools are jumping in on this recruitment. Michigan State beat them to the punch. Florida, Illinois, UCLA, arrow pointing up with Eddie Whiting. And before you change subject, P, I want to make sure we get a quote here from Aiden Childs, or about Aiden Childs, I'm sorry, from Whiting's mother, because I thought this was interesting. She said that one interaction that resonated well with her and her husband was with Aiden Childs, of course, the starting quarterback for Michigan State. She said, in prior weeks, we spent time at other Big Ten programs, and never did we have an experience quite like we did with Aiden. At a walkthrough, he went out of his way to come over to our family, introduce himself, and thank us for being there. He says some programs are very transactional, display a better than you mentality of sorts, and Aiden helped exhibit that true family atmosphere that our family and Eddie desire for his career. And that was the moment where they said, all the talk about family is true. Very encouraging sign for your quarterback of the present and future in Aiden Childs, that he's taking that much of a hands-on effort in recruiting and making that kind of impact.
And then you look at Michigan State's class right now at this point, just wrapping things up. They have 3 commits now, and 2 of them coming this weekend, the guys that we're talking about in Whiting and Kaufman. And then the third, Joey Caudill, another tight end in the class from Mansfield, Ohio. So a couple tight ends in the class early here and a quarterback. Only 3 commits, but obviously it's early. Would expect the Spartans to really pick things up here in the coming weeks on the trail, though.
Yeah, look, what you're seeing is the Midwest, right, being protected. 2 guys from Michigan. Sioux Falls is not exactly around the corner. It's about a little under 12 hours away, but it's closer than California, right, or Florida. So they're doing work in the Midwest, getting big bodies, 6'6", 6'5" at tight end, and then a quarterback with enough height and length, and a great athlete to boot. So good start for Michigan State. This was a program that was always about development. I mean, think back to the glory days, not too long ago, Michigan State was in the college football playoff. It was always about development, getting these 3-star players and turning them into big-time athletes. These guys kind of on the border of 4 stars. Some services have these guys as 4 stars, but developmental guys who become pros, who stay in the system for a long time. That's what Michigan State really, that's when they're at their best. And I think that's what Coach Smith's trying to get back to.